2, 1. Let's see if it worked in post. Hello, everybody. My name is Alexandra with This is Improv, and today I have a very special guest on our episode of Talk About It Tuesday, where we talk about the arts and the people who love them. Today I have with me Kyle.
Me.
All right, so Kyle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, so hello, my name is Kyle. I am the resident GM for a podcast, a YouTube channel, a Twitch stream, all named Death Saves with Advantage. And based off that name, you can, if you're familiar with the system at all, you probably guessed that we are a Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition actual play podcast. But the coolest thing that we've decided as a group is that we are an educational podcast as well. So whenever something brand new is introduced, whether it's a class ability, a spell, or a mechanic for the game, we take time to explain it, and then ideally never again. But, you know, I forget stuff all the time, so I'm always like, oh, what's that do? But yeah, we make sure to explain it so that way if somebody's brand new, we'll explain something as simple as just rolling for initiative in combat, while still having some interesting twists on things, be it a house rule or just really weird creatures and battle setups, that it's still entertaining for veteran players.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So we met Kyle through Twitch where he streams. Yeah. So that was pretty fun to see you guys playing because I love Dungeons and Dragons. So it was just fun to watch the hilarity ensue, but also the story build, because how long was that campaign?
Oh, goodness. You're probably talking about the Tyranny of Dragons game.
Yes.
So that game, we started, I think it would have been 6 years in December.
Whew.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, as of right now, between running and playing games, I'm involved in 7 different games right now. But all of my games, except for I run Adventure League, which is, for those of you who don't know, it's a public format where the intent is play when your schedule allows. If it doesn't allow, it's fine. We'll catch you up. That's every week. Everything else is every other week. So my games are on different days of the week, or they're at the very least, I don't have more than 3 games scheduled within the same week outside of like one-shot stuff.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty sick. So that's a lot of game. That's pretty cool. That's awesome though, because a lot
the ability to compartmentalize different campaign stories definitely comes in handy for remembering information about various card games and board games for work.
Yeah. Oh, so. There you go. It's funny because watching you guys on Twitch, I was just like, oh my gosh, they know all the rules. It's just all the rules, all up in the head. And I was like, I'm still trying to learn stats and all this stuff of characters that I already have played for X amount of years.
Yeah. So. I mean, I've been playing since 5th edition came out in mid 2014.
Okay.
So I also didn't have a lot going on. Like, family was like 2 hours away and I didn't have a car. So I'm just like, I'll just learn how to play D&D. Yeah, maybe I'll learn how to run it. And then just playing in so many games and having a handful of different DMs running those games, just I was able to learn about different scenarios and different niche interactions between different rules much more frequently than you would if you're just in one game, even if that game spans multiple years.
Yeah. That's awesome. And for those of you that wonder why we talk D&D here, Angelica and I teach it in our classes for improv. So for our students, it's all character-based, so background creation and then world building. And it's a huge compartment of teamwork. So with improvisation, you have to work with your team, and what better way to do that than fighting crime and the forces of evil in a game, you know? Some of my students become murder hobos, and then they learn to not murder hobo.
Yeah.
eventually. So, but some of them
That's
just
the
roll
hope.
really well, and it's
Yeah.
not the most fun for me. Lots of paper ripping, but other than that, the kids just respond really well to it. So we learn that it
Definitely.
helps them with their progress later on when we do more of our acting stuff. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so for you, how would you say that D&D has affected your everyday life?
I've had to be in certain social situations I never thought I would find myself in. And then I can think back to, or well, in D&D. So like, would I ever, little old me, be in like the king's court for a local, for like the local gala event? No, by no means. But did my dumb, lovable barbarian get stuck in that situation? Yes. So I was just, you just think about the various scenes and role playing events that you have in the game, and you can actually, whether it's intentional or not, use that as like life experience
Yeah.
for if you get into situations where you're talking to somebody who might be uh, of a certain social standing, at least in your region that you live in, and you
Yeah.
just get like, "Oh yes, no, no, totally, I totally agree," and blah 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 blah. This is how I'm talking to you, as opposed to, "Yeah, no, what are you doing?" So like you really, it helps me read the room better
Yeah.
overall as far as the social interactions go,
Hmm.
and it's really good for it's helped me be able to get ideas from my head to paper,
Yeah.
because I've been working on my expanded world setting for my homebrew games
Mhm.
for probably the better part of the last 2 years, and I just hit a block. I just hit a hard block, hard stop, and then a few games started up here and there. Got to interact with a wide array of characters and cultures within those different worlds. I'm like, that's really similar to something I have. And then just clicks. And then I used to struggle. Like I would like know what I'm writing when I want to write up here, but I just can't get it on the paper. And I think experiencing stuff that's really similar to what I have in mind helps me get it down on paper that
Yeah.
much faster.
When Angelica and I were learning improv, first off, it was at Second City, Chicago. And
Mm-hmm.
their method is that you do the improv and then you take bits and pieces from there and you can create an entire show out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were learning this kind of stuff, we were like, oh my gosh, we're getting so many ideas from just playing out scenarios that our characters are doing. Okay, maybe we should add this in. And now we have like, I don't even know how many sketches about D&D on our YouTube channel because we've just become obsessed. And
It's
Anjoka
really
started
easy to
playing
do.
first. It's so easy to do. And one of my family friend, he brought me into the game with my sister. She had already been playing for like a year before I did with
Mm-hmm.
our friends. And he goes, no, 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 you do improv. You're gonna love this. Like, this is gonna be so fun for you. And I was like, okay. And normally I'm pretty chaotic, but I was like, I want to challenge myself as a character and not be chaotic.
Yeah.
Uh, so it was hard because your personality leaks into your character. That's okay. But it was hard to stay like on the path of being neutral good and not
Yeah. That
being,
that neutral good too. That's a really tough alignment to stick it with.
yeah.
Yeah.
But we were also in the world of Strahd. So like I guess it was okay to be a little chaotic at times, but it
Hmm.
still worked out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Little Barovia.
Yeah. I miss it. I miss it. The grayness, It just helps so much as a tool in that sense of like, even
Mm-hmm.
our stuff now, we still think, oh, well, it would be really fun to go through like stat levels and how can stat levels affect your character that we make for a sketch. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's do it this way. So, and you teach. So that's what your podcast is for. You guys are teaching as you go. So how does it feel to like have to be fully aware of the game but also be teaching at the same time?
So It's not that difficult personally for me,
Okay.
because before we started up, this is our like third attempt at doing a podcast. Uh, Before starting up this game, which we're only 10 sessions in, um, I'd been live streaming on Twitch for a little over a year already. So being able to split my focus between what's going on with the game, what's going on with chat, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Then just adding in what's going on in the game, what's going on with chat, and something new came up. Let's take a moment to explain. And then that's kind of just like a hard reset for everybody in the game. So if anybody has anything to chime in on it, or if it's, let's say it's the bard's ability, because we don't just have a regular College of Lore bard, we have a College of Spirits bard in this adventure. So she gets Tales from the Beyond, and she'll roll on the table and then rattle off, if it's something we haven't heard yet. If it's number 5, she'll tell you what 5 does the first time it happens. So it's not just me. It's a group effort to make sure everyone is aware of the cool new abilities that pop up as you level up.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I love that you guys are teaching as you go, because sometimes, I mean, like when I played, I just like with the friends learned how to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a ranger who was a beastmaster, and I was like, I want a bear. And then they're like, oh, like Laura Bailey. I go, who is that? I don't know who that is. And then I'm like, I want to be like a person. So then I picked up Black Panther, because I was like, I'll just go with this instead.
My first 5th edition character was a Beastmaster Ranger with a Black Panther that I named Bagheera.
I named mine Onyx. She was so cute.
Bagheera lasted like 5 sessions, and that turned into ice.
Whoa. The learning process was so different. But I mean, listening to your guys' podcast, it's like, oh yeah, no, oh, that's so cool. I never knew that. You know, it's always fun to keep learning and learning and learning.
Yeah, definitely.
And then now teaching it to the kids, I have to also keep updated, teach the chaos as well, and how to control the chaos is also like another aspect of it. So as you GM a lot. So in doing that, how do you feel is the balance of making sure everyone is kind of being cohesive with their character, you know, so that they don't get off track? Do you have a method to that?
So first and foremost, you got to have a session 0. Even if it's a one-off, or at least in our case, as we've been talking with our group, trying to figure out a day and time, you need to at least have a lengthy conversation where if you have an idea for the adventure, whether it's political intrigue versus dungeon crawling versus grand epic heroic hack and slash, or if it's just a sandbox adventure, you need to have that in mind, in that conversation in mind with your players if you're going to be running the game. That way, players can design their characters like mechanically to fit the overall theme of the adventure. So that way, no one feels left behind as far as their usefulness, and then also everyone feels that it's easier to actually interact with the world. Because if I build a barbarian with 6 intelligence who is a berserker and goes on rampages all the time, I'm not going to be particularly useful in a political delegate conversation, and I'm just going to be in the background twiddling my thumbs. Versus you get people that play like an Inquisitive Rogue or College of Eloquence Bard, or even like a Divine Soul Sorcerer if you're in a holy city. Those are people that will have reasonably, maybe it's not written down, but reasonably, those are people that would have experiences to contribute to the conversation and be able to notice things that aren't picked up by other people necessarily. Besides that, one of the things that I like to do is look at other systems, and if there's something that I think is really good for just the overall table experience, I will pull it in. And one of the biggest things is, I believe it's from the Fate system. The very beginning of the adventure, you have two threads. One where you have a good connection with a party member, and one where like you've interacted. It's not necessarily that you're the antagonist to each other, but you've interacted with each other. You're aware of the other person, maybe not on the best terms, but you have a connection to other people already. Now I say this, and I didn't do that for the beginning of the podcast, but I had 3 players meet up because their stories wove together for like it made sense that they would interact first, and the same for 2 other people. Like they were coming into port, the ships had an argument, and both of those characters could just fly, so they flew into town. And that was how those characters met for their session 0. So while they didn't have that pre-existing relationship, as far as session 1 was concerned, they had at least interacted with each other a little bit.
Right.
So a pre-existing bond in some shape or form is huge for making sure the group doesn't just split off.
Right.
But as far as chaos goes, sometimes a group is just nothing but it. And you just got to think about like especially if you're in your own world setting, or if you're in a pre-existing one, read up on the lore of the region that you're running stuff in. How heavy-handed is the local government, or at least the local guard force? And if they're going to be super chaotic, then you can use that to your advantage. Maybe somebody gets arrested. Maybe they all get arrested. Now you can start planning for a prison break session. Yeah. So just being adaptive to the chaos.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. With my teen class, I was doing Escape from the Abyss. And which starts in prison. So I was like, well, I have 2 very chaotic teens in here, and I need them to learn patience. So we started with that. And it's true. It's like the systems within the game kind of help balance itself. But that's a good system that you have just to make sure that it stays even played. Okay, I want to talk about, we talked a little bit about music. So why don't you tell me about your background in music?
So I went to school for music, and found out after like a semester, I didn't want to go into music ed as far as like full on classroom setting. So I just went through with the general music degree and had a blast. I was doing wind ensemble, choir, the a cappella group. I was a part of the Phi Alpha Sinfonia music fraternity, and even had a ska band for a little bit while I was in college. And it's just so much fun, and you can take almost everything from music, especially depending on the instrument. You can take almost everything from music and use it as an example for other things. And when I moved to the DC area, a friend of mine was doing private lessons through this company, and was like, "Hey, you actually know how to play your instrument, and you're smart, and you know how to teach. You should totally apply." So being primarily a French hornist and then a vocalist, I was like, okay, hey, I can teach brass lessons. And then they're like, okay, cool. We don't have any brass students, but how about early childhood? And I was like, okay, what's that entail? And I ended up doing early childhood as young as 6 months to 2 years old for one class setting, 3 to 5 year old, and then 5 to 6 for a third separate class setting. Yeah. And on top of that, private lessons. And then for the older kids, they also had group bands. And so they would learn covers on their instruments, or sometimes they would even write original music. And being a part of the creation process was just bonkers, depending on some of the stuff. But awesome. Having such a wide variety of student ages and demographic was just really helped overall, because whether it's talking about music, talking about math, science, Dungeons and Dragons, you really need to know how to explain something at least 3 different ways.
Yeah.
And especially working with the little kids, that's something that I picked up on and learned to do quite quickly.
Oh yeah, kids are great. Our youngest student is 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she actually is in class with like 9-year-olds, but completely keeping up.
Okay.
And I was worried about her at first because she's the youngest student. And her mom was like, just let me know if this is not for her, whatever. And I gave them an exercise of just environment work of like, I want you guys to act like you're walking through molasses, or like it's really, really cold outside. And then I said, I want you to act like a feather in the wind. And everyone else kind of like started doing their own thing. And she comes up to me and she goes, I've never seen a feather flying in the wind. So what would that look like? And I was like, no one's ever asked me that
That's
before.
a good question.
That's a great question. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, if you think of wind, how does wind move? And she's like, sometimes really big, sometimes not so big. I go, okay, so imagine you being so light that you can fly. And then picture yourself in that wind, whatever wind it is. And she started doing it perfectly. She was doing it perfectly. And she was so into it. And I was like, oh my God, proud moment. So yeah, it's like the ages, it just doesn't matter when it comes down to the creative aspect of any art form. It's like you can come together in so many ways. It's like, it's just crazy. So,
yeah. And really, like, as far as I've had a lot more fun on the GM side of the screen as far as the character development goes, because I've poured many, many hours into specific regions of my world, and people are like, okay, what are the common types of folk that you would encounter in this part of the world? And then I'll be like, oh, I've been waiting for this, and then just rattle off the list and start having more and more in depth, and they start pulling in these ideas. I'm like, okay, that works for this part. Maybe you should try something different, unless you're looking to go a specific route. But then they just like coming up with ideas that, like, I'm like, I didn't ever thought that somebody with this piece of information in their background would be in this part of the world. That's really cool. That interacts in ways I can't tell you. So as much as I enjoy making characters and never getting to play them, just having that creative conversation with the players and seeing the character become more than just an idea and words on paper and into a real person as you go through the creation process is just amazing.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's like the beauty of working on a character is just, watching it come into life, and watching the character grow as well. I mean, I think that's the most fun I have with any character, even characters that I've created for sketches, and see how those characters can grow and develop and shift and morph into something. Like I even have one character that people are like, oh my gosh, she's like my mom, she's like everyone's mom, but she's like a little quirky and weird. It's like, yeah, her children are the children of the corn. So yeah, she's a little weird. But people can connect to those kinds of characters. And it's funny because, for us, everything comes from reality, even the characters we create. So we've met that person, we've been that person, we've thought of what that kind of person would be like, or we've seen it in front of our faces. So when we do D&D characters, it's like the same thing. We think of like, oh my gosh, I know this person. I know this person.
That's something I was going to say, is like finding inspiration in the weirdest places. One of the antagonists that they encounter is a reanimated skeleton with levels in Bard and Necromancer Wizard. And the reason for that is because I listened to a song called Necromancer Dancin' by Bear Ghost. and they talk about the necro dancer
That is
throughout the
awesome.
song, and I'm just like, oh, this is amazing. I need this to be a D&D character now. And like giving credit in the description of
Mhm.
the episode, but like saying uh certain phrases of X character from the song and just like pulling inspiration for stuff from the weirdest places. Um, another like more another thing I found was I read a lot of wuxia novels. Those I'm not sure if you're familiar with those.
No.
They are typically Chinese, Japanese, or Korean translated, and they follow the usual trend is some sort of cultivation scale. So just
Uh-huh.
you get stronger, a threat shows up. You get stronger, threat shows up. You get stronger, just advancing through the ranks.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, because they are from that part of Earth, incorporate the uh, creation myth of the five original elements and then the guardian beasts to represent the four different directions. I was like, that's really cool. I really like it. And you can also use that as maybe you have characters or players that are like not comfortable with the idea of deities, and now this is just the cycle.
Yeah.
It's just a comfort, it's just a thought that people have. Cycle of life and death, survival to the fittest in some ways. I'm like, and it's also just real because it's my fantasy world setting. So,
Yeah, 100%.
so finding real world influence or inspiration is great, whether you're playing or running the game.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just so much fun. I mean, we all know the person we're playing. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. uh Now I want to ask you a couple of taco questions.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Um, so I thought something I haven't done before. I want you to describe to me your favorite taco as a D&D monster.
Okay. So here's what we're going to start with all of the ingredients first.
Of course.
Uh, your your group has been tasked to go into a mansion. You've got your strong, hardy barbarian, the wall of meat, if you will. Uh, there's the druid, who's very in tune with nature. So you've got, in particular, the leafy greens. Uh, the you have the bard, who, while they know the tomato is a fruit and that it should not be put into a fruit salad, they are able to convince the locals to do so. Uh, and then just because it annoys people enough, you've got somebody who decided to play a base ranger from the player's handbook instead of one of the fancier subclasses for your sour cream. Uh, and you're walking about and you're not paying too much attention that the entire group just gets wrapped up nice and snug by a giant rug of smothering for your soft shell to wrap it all up into one nice package.
That's awesome. Okay. I just saw it happen. Oh, yeah. That was dope. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. I like that one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. If I didn't know you at all, I knew nothing about you,
Mhm.
what is something that I cannot tell just by looking at you?
All right, so I'm gonna preface it with it's just stupid.
Cool.
Unlike people who rant and complain nonstop
Mhm.
about wearing a mask, the only reason, and it's not a legitimate reason at all, the only reason I do not enjoy wearing a mask for work is that after a while, when I go to take it off, it makes my beard look like it has a beard. That is it. That is legit the only reason I don't like wearing them. They are for your safety. They are for all the good reasons. That
Yes.
is the only thing. I told you it was stupid. It's the dumbest
That's
reason
the
to not
number
like
one
it.
complaint I get from my friends. They're like, my beard, it's suffering. Which I understand. I don't understand, but at the same time, I understand.
Thank you. I'm glad someone does.
Yes, of course, of course, of course. I want to get into, so you are an artist in your own right. You also do some Twitch streaming.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of things do you do on your Twitch channel?
Well, the typical spiel that I give at the beginning of every stream is that this is Death Saves with Advantage, and my name is Kyle. And we typically have a heavy focus on tabletop RPG content that is more specifically Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition on the weekends. As of right now, we don't have a game every Friday, but we have a game every other Friday that we stream. That same week, we also have a game on Saturday that we stream. But other than that, as long as my schedule and more importantly, my energy levels allow, I do variety content, and that can be anything from I'm working my way through the Halo Master Chief Collection. I still have to finish playing like some newer games like the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I like to play some nostalgia-inducing games from my childhood, like I'm playing through Golden Sun.
Nice.
Should I ever be live on a Tuesday? But something that has my attention right now is I really enjoy teamfight tactics. While the community for League of Legends can be incredibly toxic, TFT is a wonderful reprieve while still recognizing the characters that are used in the game.
Yes.
It's just a little auto chess game that I just enjoy a lot. So that's what I'm playing the most right now. But it's variety content in D&D.
Nice. That's awesome. Yes, you should definitely go and check out Kyle's channel. It's a lot of fun. I hop in there while I edit most nights, so it's great. And if someone wanted to get involved in Dungeons and Dragons, what is something you might say to someone who is new to the world?
All right. So the one thing you need to know for whether it's D&D or any other tabletop game system, you tell your game master what you want to do, and they're going to tell you what kind of modifier to add. So you just have that D20 in hand. You get ready to roll it. Like if you want to kick down a door, I'll tell you to make an athletics check, and you just look for athletics. You look at your modifier, whether it's positive, 0, or negative, and then you just add it to whatever you roll on the dice. That's really all there is. Beyond that, you get into the nitty gritty details about classes and super niche situations. So don't worry about not knowing all the rules. Don't worry about not knowing all your abilities if you're brand new. You'll learn over time. And if you've got a DM who's experienced, they're going to know most of the stuff that you need to know to get the ball rolling.
Definitely. Yeah. I definitely trust Kyle with all my questions because I'm going to be doing a one shot with Kyle, and I know I'm so excited. I already picked my voice. So excited. And I very adamantly expressed I'm bad with numbers, so just help. And he went through the whole character sheet with me. So it's always ask your game masters, always ask your friends for help because they'll help. It's good. It's okay. I'm not the best either. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on here. Can you tell us some ways that we can keep up with you?
So the easiest way to get in touch with me for whether it's questions about D&D or the podcast or the streams, you can find me on Twitter. The handle is @saves with ADV. And then you can find us on Twitter, or not Twitter, on Twitch, just twitch.tv/deathsaves with advantage. It's a mouthful, but it just barely fits within the character name limit. And I think there will be a link to at least our link tree for all of those individual links in the description below this. So yeah, you can find us on a bunch of different platforms there. But Twitter and Twitch are the two main ones.
Mhm.
And if you feel like joining our Discord server known as the Bounty Board, I can direct you there when you stop by for a stream.
Yes, 100%. Please keep up with Kyle. Go and check out his content because it's really fun, honestly. Especially if you guys are just getting involved with Dungeons and Dragons. 100% listen to the podcast. It's really informative and really helpful.
We try to keep it under 2 hours per episode for recording total time, so that way there's even less to have to try to absorb story wise. So just to make it all the more accessible. So I think our longest session is like an hour and 45 minutes after editing it down.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's not bad at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's so awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today. If you guys would like to take any improv classes, please go to www.thisisimprov.com. We are teaching hybrid classes for our kids, teens, and adult classes. So anywhere in the world, you can still join our class. If you like histories, mysteries, and ghost stories, we have a lot of that for you with our podcast. This is Legends of Yesterday, where we talk about all of that and more of the weird and wacky world that is Florida. There's a lot of fun things about our home state that people just don't realize, and we cover all of it. If you would like to take a comedy, historical, and ghost tour in person, we are offering those. You can even meet our characters, the Conspiracy Sisters, our expert ghost hunters who take you on a fun adventure throughout Davie. So you can stop on by and go to www.thisistours.com to sign up today. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful, and glorious rest of your day, you beautiful creatures. Eat some tacos today because it is Taco Tuesday, okay? All right. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.